Let's see. Hello, everybody. Maybe see if we can get a comment here in our public chat. Kostu, if you're watching right now, if you could comment publicly and see if I can see it. Yeah, okay, perfect. All right. Working great. And everybody can hear me okay? All right. Looks like we're 1 minute until officially starting here. Oh, okay, people can hear us. Hi, Jen. Good afternoon. Hopefully people will keep coming. Hi, Hunter. Yeah, perfect. Okay. All right. So it's officially 9 o'clock. Let's see, hi, Elizabeth. We are going to get settled a little bit, a few more minutes for people to join us. And while we're waiting, we'll kind of kick it off the same way and ask a trivia question. So today's question is, can anybody tell me how long snow leopard cubs stay with their mothers before they disperse and go out on their own? So hello, welcome everybody. Again, we just asked the question, do you know how long cubs stay with their moms in the wild before they disperse and go out on their own? Hey, Anna, oh my gosh, hi. Little trivia here to get started. I see James, 2 to 3 years. 2 years, 18 months. Yeah, that's great. You guys are amazing right off the bat. So it's about 20 to 22 months. And oh, hi, Top Tunes in Mongolia. Okay, so welcome. Deep breath. We made it. Happy Friday or Saturday, depending on where you're tuning in from. My name is Marissa Naranjan from the Snow Leopard Trust. And we're excited to be here with you today for our 3rd annual chat, live chat, and it happens to be on Endangered Species Day. So we thought what a wonderful day to come together and learn more about the snow leopard. We thank you for being here. We hope that you're healthy and doing well. We started these chats to really connect with our field staff and share that connection with all of you wonderful snow leopard champions across the world. And we've been so grateful and so overwhelmed for all of your insightful questions and just for joining us in this space and learning with us and supporting snow leopards with us. So we've been really excited, and I'm so thrilled to be here today with my wonderful colleague, Örjan, the Snow Leopard Whisperer, as we call him at the Trust. He's joining us today from Sweden. So Örjan's groundbreaking work on snow leopards' biology and behavior has led to novel insights into the ecology of this elusive cat. This information not only helps us better understand snow leopards, but also allows conservation actions to be more efficient. Now, after 10 years of field work and more than 1,300 nights spent in the Gobi Desert, this pioneering scientist has led our fantastic team in collaring 32 individual snow leopards. Designing more efficient and animal-friendly capture techniques lies at the heart of his field engagement. Örjan received his PhD from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences in 2017. And when he's not collaring snow leopards, he can be found chasing after his 5-year-old son or roaming around in the forest. I selfishly am also hoping that he might add working on a best-selling memoir to that list of hobbies, because not only does he's a wonderful writer and tells such engaging, incredible stories that really no one else can tell anywhere on the planet, and you're about to hear some of them today. So I'm so excited to be here with you, Örjan, and to hear more about this research. Today's topic is kind of building off of the technology topic from last time. And so we'll be talking about the GPS collaring study, and Örjan will talk a little bit more about those 1,300 days spent in the Gobi Desert working on this project. So as he's talking again, feel free to put your comments below and we will answer them as soon as the presentation is over. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Örjan, for being here, and I want to hand it over to you since you are who people want to hear from. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Thank you for the very nice introduction. Yeah, welcome everyone. Hope you're all doing well. To make sure I don't just tell stories, now I've actually made a presentation here, or prepared a presentation, so I have to stick to somewhat of a script. Let's see now if I can start this. Does that work? Can you see it, Marissa? Or yeah, I guess it works. I'll try. Yeah. Right, then we'll start. So I will talk about a research study that we're doing in Mongolia. And Mongolia is a fairly large country located between Russia and China. And our study area is called Tosk Mountains. It's in the southernmost part of Mongolia in the Gobi Desert. You see the small red circle on the lower left map. So Mongolia, as I said, it's a fairly large country. It's a bit larger than Alaska. And there's about 3 million people living here, and half of them live in the capital, Ulaanbaatar. So Mongolia pretty much consists of two different worlds. You have the really busy Asian city, Ulaanbaatar, and as soon as you leave it, you'll find yourself on the countryside. And the countryside looks a bit like this. It's rolling hills and grass, and the people living here are nomads, so they live in these big white gears or yurts, like the tents, and they move 4 times a year with their livestock. And because the countryside pretty much looks the same as, well, it's done for hundreds of years, there's not too many roads, or very, very few. So when we go to camp, we pack our Russian van with everything we might need for the next couple of months, and then we head off on dirt trails like this. And you sort of take a trail that leads in the general direction you want to go and hope that it will take you there eventually. Since there's no roads, there's not much of road maintenance either. So if you actually get stuck in a sand or snowstorm, like the poor people in the photo here, well, then you'll be stuck there until it clears out. So you'll have to bring provisions and equipment to make it until you eventually end up where you aim to go. Now we work in the Gobi, and the Gobi is super warm in the summer. It's really cold in the winter, and most often there's a fairly strong wind blowing. There's very little snow and rain and not many people. I think if you want to summarize it, there's no littles there. There's never a little warm or a little cold or just a little dust in your coffee. It is described as one of the harshest places on the planet. So I started working here in 2008. Since then, I've done, well, almost 1,300 days in camp. The longest I've stayed here is 7 months in a row, and the longest alone is for 1.5 months. And when I say alone, I mean alone. We have a Mongolian couple living in our base camp, but I live in the camp you see here on the photo. That's our mobile research camp. So we move that around in the mountains depending on where we aim to work. So when we go here, we have to bring all the equipment that we need. If we don't have it, or if it breaks, we'll repair it. And if we can't repair it, we'll just have to live without it. And that sort of goes for me too. So I have to be my own doctor and therapist when the days get long. Besides the research, we also, of course, have to do all the necessary work just to live out here. So we collected water, sticks, and camel dung to burn in the stoves, and everything else that goes along with living under fairly basic conditions. It has evolved a lot in Tost, but when I came there, just as a testament of how remote it is, one evening I was driving over a hill and there was a yurt on the other side. And even if my Mongolian, well, it wasn't very good at the time, it's not great now either. But since I was so close to the yurt, I figured I'd have to stop. And this young woman comes out from the door, and I had a face mask and ski goggles on. So I pull off the ski goggles and I pull down the face mask, and she looks at me, just screams out and runs into the yurt and slams the door shut. And I was like, okay. I mean, I hadn't showered in a couple of months, and I guess I wasn't, I looked a little bit scruffy maybe, but I didn't know I was that bad. So I put my mask and goggles on again and drove off. Then a couple of weeks later, Nadia from our Mongolian team came to camp, and she was sitting talking to our staff there, and then she started giggling and asked if I had scared a woman. And I was like, no. Oh, yes, I have actually. That's true. And she told me that she thought I was a ghost because she didn't know there were white people. Now there are many of the herders have TVs and all, but this 10 years ago, it was very, very remote. Well, the question is then, why are we out there? And the answer is that the information from this study is crucial for understanding snow leopards. When we started, there wasn't much known about snow leopard ecology. And, well, to be honest, I guess we don't know that much now either, but at least we know a lot more. And this knowledge will help us increase our chances of conserving them by designing better conservation programs, understanding what strategies to focus on, and how policies should be designed and so on. But there's many different ways to study animals, and one of the reasons that snow leopards are so poorly understood is that, well, there's a cat lying here. And one of the basic research methods is just observation studies. You sit and observe animals and you learn from their behavior or just seeing what they do. This photo of the snow leopard was taken from 4 or 5 meters distance. And I'm sure you can see it. It will be even more easy now. But try to see where the back of the snow leopard ends and the slope begins. You can go back again. They really, really blend in well with their environment. And they also, they know that they see us before we see them, and quite often they just hunch down and let us pass by, or they slip away and hide behind a rock. So observation studies is virtually impossible of snow leopards. Well, maybe we could snow track them. I mean, we've snow tracked wolves and cougars and lots of species, and by following them, you can find their day rests, what they eat, lots of information. Problem with snow leopards is that, well, the snow fields are broken and they're not really fond of snow, so they'll try to stay away from them. And the landscape is so rugged that if you try to follow a cat here, you'll also end up as broken. It just doesn't work. So the solution is we have to fit some sort of a tracking device to a couple of individuals or a handful of individuals. And so we use GPS collars with satellite communication. And it works like this, that you have your snow leopard in the lower left corner. And then I program the collars so that every 5 hours, the GPS starts, uses satellites to figure out where on the planet it is. And as soon as it collected the data, a satellite phone starts and sends it to other satellites, which relays it down, and we can access internet and see where the cats are. So we can actually right now check where our collared cats are. Well, if we're going to fit the collar, we somehow need to capture the snow leopards. And the trick question here, or the main question, the big question is, how do you catch something that is referred as a ghost? There is a snow leopard here in the photo. It's in the lower right corner drinking water. Well, ghost or no ghost, they do leave markings. The cat here is scent marking a cliff, and then it's urinating on the cliff, and the next cat who comes here will sniff and also mark. And they also make scrapes. And I'll have a short video here showing what it looks like. So they basically sit down and they make a little mound of dirt and then often urinate on it. So next cat who comes here will sniff and make another scrape saying, hey, this is my territory and I'm a big dude. I don't like any interference with my area. So these markings, they allow us to tell both how they use the landscape, but also we can find sites that they often pass by. And in such sites, if it's a safe site, like it's safe for the cat and it's also safe for it to wake up there, then we'll use it to build snares. And here is a snare. So the snare itself is a throw arm and it's a cable. So when they step in the middle there, the arm will throw the cable up on the leg. And then from the cable, there will be swivels attached so that the cat can roll as it wants without tangling up the cable. Then that is attached into a spring that will cushion the impact so that it's a soft impact for it. And the spring itself is attached to an anchor where we hammer in 4 long rebars into the ground to make sure that the cat can't get away from there. There's also a radio transmitter attached to the snare, and I think that is the key. And so the snares, we build them in sites. Yeah, of course, they have to be safe, but also we need to predict a little bit how the cats will walk. Now, obviously, no snow leopard with any sort of self-respect would step in that thing. So when you're finished, you have to hide it really well, and then hope for the best. As I said, the snares are equipped with radio alarms. And in the first couple of years, you can see a site like in the bottom here. Me listening with the radio for checking the snares. So from early evening to late morning, we walked up a hill or a small mountain every 3rd hour to listen to our traps and make sure we haven't caught anything. Then my brother built a surveillance system that monitors the transmitters for us. So that's the upper photo. So we have a little station up on a mountain, and it listens to all the transmitters. As soon as an animal gets caught, it sends a signal down to our camp, which starts a horrible siren that will make both me and Gustav jump out of bed, and then we can go. So with this system, our average response time from when the cat steps into the snare until we dart it is 28 minutes. And to me, I think that's the key, that you do not leave them in the trap for a long time, because we have done somewhere between 60 and 70 captures, and we haven't had nothing more serious than a few small scrapes or cuts. So it's a safe method if you don't leave the cats in. I'll show you a short video here of the capture itself. So when you caught your cat, you need to tranquilize it. Let's see. And so we use a dart rifle. It's powered by carbon dioxide, so we can set the pressure to the distance. And here's the cat. He's not really happy with us, but he's fairly calm. So you aim for the thigh, and you'll see, okay, he doesn't like me more now, but still okay. First, we check that he's actually asleep and he's not trying to fool us. Then we take him out and we carry the cat down to a place that we've already decided will be safe for it to wake up in. Then we constantly monitor pulse, temperature, breathing. We fit the collar, put in a microchip, a pit tag. We measure and collect blood and stuff. And then when the cat is about to wake up, start recovering, we give it an antidote. And you'll see he's moving a little already. So then we give him the antidote so that it recovers fast. And snow leopards are pretty calm animals. They're not really aggressive, so he's going to walk away now. So yeah, in total we've captured 32 snow leopards. Several of them have been recaptured, so we can change the color. Oh, I forgot to say, the collars they stay on for 20 months, and then we program them so that they actually open up, and then they fall off the snow leopard. And that means the snow leopard doesn't have to walk around with collars that doesn't work, which is nice for them. It also means that we can find the collars, bring them back, download all data that might not have been transmitted, and also we just change the batteries and use them again and save money. So it's a pretty nice setup. Now, when we recapture them, we can put a new collar on them and study them for a longer time period. So we have I will tell you just to example of what we can learn from the collars. I'll tell you the story of Astai. So all our cats get names in Mongolian. They also get ID numbers. And Astai means lucky, because this is the first cat that we caught. He got it's a male, so he has the ID M1. Now, while we were lucky capturing Astai, Astai himself wasn't very lucky because we caught him 8 times over the years. That meant that we could actually follow him for almost 5 years. And I guess this is the cat I got to know the best. So I think already in the 3rd capture, he had learned this trick now, so he didn't pull the snare tight anymore. I mean, it was so tight he couldn't get out, but I think when he got caught, he pretty much just sat and waited for us. I even snuck up on him once when he was sitting and licking his paws and cleaning himself. And then when he saw me, he just made a little jump and tried to hide behind a rock. He also learned that the dart gun makes a little poof when you shoot the dart. So I think on the 6th capture already, when I shot the dart, he just jumped straight up into the air and the dart went under him. So it ended up, I had to walk very, very close to him before I could hit him in the thigh. Now in this particular photo, Astai is sleeping in a sleeping bag. And the first winter, I didn't have any of our thermal bags. So I rummaged through the storage in our camp, and I found this sleeping bag, thinking it must belong to Snow Leopard Trust. So I borrowed it. It was great. I've had quite many snow leopards in there. Once I put on one of the captures, I put Astai in there, and it was a little bit of a downhill slope. So I folded a little pillow of the sleeping bag so that he would have his head up. And then I walked away 20, 25 meters and sat down waiting for him to recover. Now, nothing happened really. And after 15, 20 minutes, I started shivering because it was really, really cold. And a couple more minutes and I'm shaking. All of a sudden, Astai, he raised his head, looked around a little bit, and he let out this big yawn, and then he was like, went back into the sleeping bag. And I was like, what the? So I walked over to him. And when I was, I don't know, a couple of meters away from him, he looked around, he saw me like, oh, jumped out of the sleeping bag and ran away. So I think he was perfectly fine. It was just really nice and warm in that sleeping bag, so he had no intention of leaving it. Turns out in the summer there, when Kostov came to camp, he pulled out that sleeping bag, and after a night or so, he complained that it was itching a lot. So I'm sorry, buddy. I really had no idea that was your sleeping bag. I thought it was Snow Leopard Trust, but yeah, I hope the itch has gone now. Anyways, Astai. So back in 2008, when we captured Astai, he was a young male. He was about 3 years old. And this is Tost. This is a satellite image of the mountains. And the yellow dots here are GPS locations from Astai. The blue dots are GPS locations from an adult male. So here's Astai is a sub-adult. And he did what most of them seem to do, keep a low profile and stay out of trouble. So he roamed around inside the big male's territory. Well, then the big male died in 2009, and Astai took over. And then to the left, he has a neighbor, Shonkor, who with red dots. To the east, he has another neighbor, Tsagan, with green dots. It's pretty clear that they are territorial. Now, the locations have been collected over 2 years, and so the borders are a little bit dynamic, but there are clear borders between the 3 different males. So we didn't know that before. People thought that they were not territorial, but they are. Well, in TOS, it's clear that they are. And the home ranges we found are 6 to 44 times bigger than what we thought they were. This, of course, means that you can fit in a lot less cats in a given area. Now, the area where Astai is, it seems like a perfect snow leopard habitat. Like, it's great mountains, lots of ibex. Seems like a great place. Even so, he started leaving it on excursions where he could be gone for 2 weeks or so. And we don't really know why he did it, but the one thing we never found in his territory were any females. We didn't capture any females, and we didn't get any females on our trap cameras. So we think that he was out looking, well, where the girls could be. And he probably realized that his eastern neighbor had 2 of them. So here the red and the purple, that's locations from females, Hasha and Tengir. And both of them are overlapping with Tsagan. And you can see that they are actually also territorial. So there's a fairly clear border between them. Now what happens is that Tsagan dies, and he dies far out to the east of his territory. But within 3 weeks, Astai abandons his old territory and moves in. There's no way that Astai could have known that Tsagan was dead, but there were no new scrapes or scent marks. And that told him that, he probably started venturing in and realized it's vacant. And so he just left his old territory and moved in. So these markings are extremely important for their social system. Now, Astai and one of the females, Tengir, they get 2 cubs. And we managed to, I'll go back. We managed to color one of them, M9, and he disperses from Tost, crosses the steppe, about 50 kilometers of steppe, and settles in a neighboring mountain to the north called Nemegt. So I had to zoom out now to show you this. This is the first dispersal of a snow leopard that has been documented. Here's a map of 3 different young snow leopards as they disperse. The cats themselves, when they settle down, they never leave the mountains. But when they are young and looking for new territory to settle down in, they might cross steppe. And the cat here with blue dots, we're going to focus on her a little bit now. So if you look at this graph here, then the red dots, that's the cub, and then we color her mother, that's the blue dots. The horizontal line, that's the mother's border, the territory border. So any dots that are above that means that the cats have been outside of the territory. And then there's a vertical line saying separation, and that's when the cub actually leaves her mom and starts. Well, she reaches independence, and during this phase, she takes off and goes out on a foray or excursion. And every time she comes back, and she reunites with her mom. And so she actually does that 5 times. She goes out, stays away for a while, comes back, joins mom for a couple of days at least, then goes out again. So it's clear that it's pretty scared to leave your mom. And this is a pretty tough process of finding a new territory of your own. If we plot this and look at how snow leopards behave in relation to other wild cats, well, you'll see if you plot the age when they reach independence against body weight, well, it's pretty clear. If you have a house cat, they develop really fast. If you have a tiger, it takes a long time. So the bigger you are, the longer it takes for you to develop. The gray shading here is just, it shows the variation or where you would assume them to be. And you see there's a very, very clear pattern for all the cats. The bigger they are, the longer it takes for them to reach independence. The only thing that stands out here is snow leopards. Even though they are not really big, they reach independence much later than all the other cats. So that's why I think I mentioned sometime that they are sort of the mama's boys of the cats. Most likely, it's just it's such a tough environment, plus their mating season, that means that they have to stay with their moms for a long time before they're developed enough to survive on their own. And this, in combination with the fact that they are very old when they start reproducing. A female is 3 or 4 years old when she gives birth for the first time. It means that they can actually not produce that many cubs in their lifetime. And so snow leopards are likely quite sensitive to disturbances. So all these things are very, very important when we try to estimate both threat levels, but also trying to understand what to focus on for the conservation programs. So I think, it took a bit of time, but please ask questions.
See you coming back. Hello. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I was laughing and just riveted and learned a lot, even myself. So thank you so much for that, Örjan. Let's see, I was trying to keep track as I was going. I have a question from Muna wondering how heavy the collars are on the snow leopard.
They weigh about 600 grams, so a little bit more than a pound.
Yeah,
I'm not good with
yeah, that's right. I think just a little over a pound. And I will say, to kind of start off, that we do have a frequently asked questions sheet that will be up on our website, and I can link to it below that might talk about some of these other questions that you might be having about the collars. So I will link those below just in case it doesn't get answered during this period. We also had a question from Shauna about asking how we determine the names of the collared cats.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, or it varies. Sometimes I name them, and then I try to name them because of something that happened during the capture, or something. And a couple of them have been named by donors. But the idea is that they should get a name that either reflects their personality during the capture, or because maybe we had a cat named Shonkor, which means falcon, and there were 2 falcons nesting above that capture site. Something that relates to them somehow.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, was it you? There was a story I remember that I've told before, and I'm happy to do it. But I think that you were there, but there was a herder in Mongolia too that had lost quite a bit of livestock to snow leopards. Was it Ghana? And we asked him to come to one of the collaring sites, and he actually had like a pretty profound experience there, seeing how much care we take of that cat, and learning a little bit more about the work that we do. Were you there with him during that, Örjan?
Yeah. So that is Hasha, the mother of that cub that I showed that dispersed.
Yeah.
So Hasha means jade, and that's the nickname for his daughter. So that's why he named her Hasha.
Yeah. I just thought that was and it was such a good idea. I think that you guys had to sort of include, because that is something that's at the core of all of our work, right? Is, working with communities and building these programs centered around communities. So to have that experience of having lost livestock, but then having this kind of flip experience of seeing the cat as part of, this research surrounding the cat and the care for the cat, and then being really inspired by that and naming the cat then after, his daughter. I just thought that was a beautiful story too, of sort of that full circleness of, working with communities with this predator in their backyard essentially. So and I know you said the donors, so we do have a Team Snow Leopard, a monthly donation group, and we have offered Team Snow Leopard people to name cats. So if that's something that's interesting to you, it's kind of fun to think of what you might want to name a cat, and then we'll also get a Mongolian name as well. But please join Team Snow Leopard. I'll link to that below as well. Let's see. Have you ever been attacked by a snow leopard in any way?
No, I've never been attacked by them. I think they're quite like the common leopard. They're quite aggressive, but snow leopards aren't. They are no, never ever.
Which we're grateful for as well. I know we had one question actually from the SLT staff. We're wondering why do we put the eye ointment on the snow leopards when we capture them?
The eye ointment.
Yes.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, so they can't blink, and it's not. They might not close their eyes completely, so we put it in just to keep the eye moisture. And then we put on a blindfold so that they, even though they are sedated, they could actually still react to sights. I mean, it's sort of the brain processes it, so it's just to make sure that they're calm. It also protects the eyes from dust or strong light. So, yeah.
It's wonderful. I didn't actually realize that snow leopards couldn't blink. I probably should have known that, but that's interesting.
When they are sedated, I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, hi, Ali. Ali was wondering if any snow leopards face challenge in hunting while wearing a collar. If we've noticed any challenges with hunting with collars on.
No, I mean that's the problem is, of course, that we can only study the ones with collars, so we can't really compare them to the ones without collars, since we don't know what they are doing. But do you still see my shared screen?
No, I bet, but Coach Dube, if maybe he can. We'll wait a second to see if he can pop that back on there. There we go.
Okay. Let's see if we can. So this is a collared cat. So that's what the ibex would see. I mean, they would stalk the ibex, and you can't really see the collar. I know that there's this worry that the collars would be so visible, but that's all you would see, really. And the collars are really lightweight, so there is no reason to think that they would interfere with the hunting. And we have several females that have reproduced and raised litters. 2 of them have raised litters of 3 cubs, and that's a hard work, finding enough food for so many cubs, and they managed to do it with collars. So I can't see that the collars would affect them in any way.
Yeah, and I know this will also be on that sheet, but one thing before we even piloted this before Mongolia, once we had partnered with the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle to test a collar on a captive cat, and they'd had like hundreds and hundreds of hours of observing the cat before the collar and wearing the collar, and observed, no change in behavior. Obviously, zoo cats don't have to hunt for their food, but it was, a lot of care was taken before, just going out and putting collars on. So that was one thing we were grateful for our zoo partnership to help us with that bit of the research. Let's see, Jenna was wondering how you got into this career. I'm assuming after listening to this, a lot of people are like, man, I want to be a snow leopard biologist as well. So I would love to hear too, just your, when did you know you wanted to work with snow leopards, or how did you get here today?
Yeah, well, I think as with most things, it's just a pure coincidence, to be honest. Like I had worked both here in Scandinavia, of course, and also in Africa and in the States and in Canada a couple of times with various wildlife research projects, and I had done a lot of captures. And then came back from Canada. I didn't have anything to do, so I asked a colleague who knew the science director at the time, Tom McCarthy. And so they emailed a little bit. He got my CV, and Tom asked me if I could come to a conference in Beijing where I met Marissa and Kostov and the others. And then he asked if I wanted to work for you guys on the study. So before that, I hadn't really considered snow leopards because it seemed a bit, far-fetched, maybe. It seemed a bit difficult to find a job with that. But yeah, so it's just, I knew I would work, or I hoped I would work with wildlife, but I guess I was open to suggestions. But it's a fantastic fantastic job. I mean, we're doing, I think it's important, and also as a scientist, it's amazing to get to work with a species where every time we go to the field, we find something that's unknown. Like, it might not be extremely big, but it's something that no one knew before. That's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing to think of that. I mean, like, that Beijing trip seems like yesterday in a way, but it was a conference where people came from all over the world, who work with snow leopards. And now here we are, right? Like over a decade later, and just all the amount of research that we've collected and secrets we have unlocked, and so much more to go, right? But it's amazing how far we've come. I'm grateful for that as well. Let's see. Jenna was also wondering, have we ever caught a juvenile? Like maybe what the youngest cat we've either caught or would collar?
Right. Yeah, we have caught. I think the youngest is 1.5 years, and that is actually the youngest we would collar too, or roughly. Actually, they would have to weigh 30 kilograms to get a collar, and that would be roughly around there. And I think the reason we don't catch, see, when the cubs are young, they always they trail behind their mothers. And then when they get a little bit older, they get more confident and faster. And so they will run ahead and maybe sometimes walk before mom. And because if mom walks first, she'll step in the snare and we won't catch the juveniles. But then when they're so big, they might walk ahead of her. So I think the risk of catching a really small one would be very small. But then again, it wouldn't be much of a risk because we just started to take it out, and the mother would sit there and wait for it. So it would be unnecessary, of course, but not a risk really.
Yeah. Let's see, Elizabeth Brill. Hi, Elizabeth. Elizabeth has spent time with you, I know, in the field, and was wondering which snare experience is the most fun for you, has been the most fun for you, if one stands out.
I think, there's many of them, but I think the one that came to my mind actually was I had put two snares quite maybe 15 meters away from each other, and we get the alarm. I go there, and there's a big male dog stuck in each snare, and then there's a very small male dog mating a female in heat in front of them. And those two big males, they were really, really unhappy. They must have been fighting over the female, and so then they got stuck, and that little guy took his chance. That was a bit of a complicated getting them out because they weren't very happy at us. Yeah, that's the most unexpected, at least.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, the book, Örjan. We've got to get the book. Let's see. Oh, Paul says that he's from Dublin, Ireland, and the snow leopard was a kindred spirit of a young person who had passed away in their family, and thanks us for our work. So, Paul, yeah, we're sorry for your loss, and hope to keep inspiring you and your family. Let's see. Have we ever not found a collar that has dropped off?
Yeah, it's happened a few times, especially since we're not always in Mongolia, and it could run out of batteries, or sometimes I miscalculate a little bit, so the battery actually runs out before it drops off, and then it can be hard to find them. There is a radio transmitter in them too that we can use that to find them, but it's very difficult to use these radio signals in the mountains. So yeah,
and that's how, I mean, before this technology sort of advanced, any collar that was put on was only found through radio signal, right? Like you would have to kind of go up and wait, similar to how you would look for, the signal on the snare, right? And that's why it was, rendered to be so ineffective long term. But we might still recover it yet, right? It might be buried somewhere, and we might be surprised.
Yeah, no, they are out there somewhere.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Howard was wondering what the average home range size is for a female with cubs.
Yeah, the average for a female is roughly 130 square kilometers. And with cubs, we haven't really calculated because it will be like in the beginning when they have the den, it's going to be very small. And then as the cubs grow older, they can move. So it would probably, yeah, be dependent on how old the cubs are. But we haven't really calculated that yet.
Yeah. Elizabeth just said, like the camera found by the ranger after the washout. That must be a field story.
Yeah, exactly. No, we built an ibex trap in a small canyon, and then there was a huge flash flood, and we came there, and our trap had been washed away 200 meters, and the trap camera we had at the trap, it was found by a herder 7 kilometers away, and it still worked.
Amazing. Oh, that's amazing. And did the herder come find us and return it then?
Yeah, he gave it to us, and Gustav and I were like, "Oh, thank you." And, that was very nice of him, and it's nice. It shouldn't just lie there littering.
Yeah.
Before it was just trash, and so it's nice. We can at least throw it away. But then we started it just for fun with see, and it worked perfectly. So
it's hardy.
Yeah.
And I love that it is an example, a small example, but I think a really important one too of that presence, in the area and with the communities, kind of knowing about the research and being connected to it and returning things when they get washed away.
Yeah.
So Sandra's wondering if we take any blood samples for disease studies and found any disease transmission from dogs or cattle. Or like,
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we do take blood samples, and we have published one paper, and we're just about to finish one other. There are no, they do have some disease, but we can't say where they came from. But there are no like parvovirus or these classic dog transmitted diseases, maybe. But the disease part is. That could be developed, I guess. We would have to sample the dogs too and really see what they have, what kind of diseases they have. So I can't say where they came from, but we are sampling them.
Yeah. All right, I think we have time for one more question. I see one from Justine asking if cubs visit mothers after they have new cubs.
Yeah, at least one of our cubs did that. She came back to her mom just a couple of days after she gave birth to a new litter, and she stayed there for 4 or 5 days. So yeah, and also when they're grown up, we have a couple of them. We have 2 females that are now 11 years old, and they have adult daughters who have cubs, and so you can have 3 or 4, or at least 3 generations of snow leopards together. So they share meals now and then. So they're quite social, really.
It's amazing what we've learned from all of this, right?
Yeah.
So I think we will stop here for questions. We do have one more story that's coming up, which you guys will help decide what that will be. But I did want to say, first of all, thank you so much, Örjan, for being here. I know usually right now you would be deep in the Gobi, and as much as I would love to use all of your satellite minutes, I've been tempted, but this has been such a treat to be able just to interact with you and see you and have, share your work and the work of the team with our supporters here today. So thank you so much for being here. We do have, so on our website, again, I'll link to the FAQ sheet in the chat, as well as answer some of the other questions that we maybe didn't get here today. Please sign up for our e-news if you haven't already. That will give you all of the latest snow leopard happenings, as well as let you know when the next live chat will be. So you can tune into that. snowleopard.org/learn has a bunch of resources as well on there. So I will link to all of that below. And thank you again also for tuning in. So for our last story, let me pull this up here because you're going to have to help me decide. I couldn't, I tried. And I thought maybe you guys would be able to help. So for the last story, Örjan can talk about option A, I'll say them a couple times, what his most unlikely injury and subsequent, maybe more unlikely treatment that happened while he was at base camp, or B, how snow leopards react when you encounter them at nighttime. So again, option A will be his most unlikely injury and subsequent treatment of that injury, or B, how snow leopards react when you encounter them at nighttime. So if you guys will comment A or B, it will unlock the last field story before we sign off. Let's see. Okay, we have one for the nighttime. A few more come in. B, B, B. All right. I think it's going to be B, Örjan. So it's how do cats react when you encounter them at nighttime?
Okay. Yeah. Well, they're actually quite chill. They're very relaxed. So I have met them on a handful of occasions at least, and they don't really seem to care much because they probably think that you can't see them at all. And so at one time, because we had a house cat, Friday, living with us, and I was out doing my trap checks, and I walked towards the mountain, and this, well, I think it's Friday sitting over at a rock. So I start calling for her to come over, and the cat is just looking at me. So I walk over to it, calling for it, and the cat is just sitting there looking at me. So when I'm like, I start realizing it's kind of wide between the eyes. But I think when I was, I don't know, 25 meters away or so, I realized that's not Friday. Because, it's hard, judging distances and so in the dark is quite hard. But so there's a snow leopard there sitting, looking at me, really puzzled of why I'm calling for it. Most likely, just human walking towards it, talking to it in a friendly voice. So after a while, I think I got to within 20 meters or so before the cat decided that maybe that's enough. So then it just walked away slowly. It didn't really walk away from me. It just walked around me, looking at me, like not in an aggressive way or anything, but just very puzzled. And when it's dark, they are really, really quite relaxed with us, just assuming we don't see them. And we wouldn't. It's just the eye shine gives them away, but they don't know that.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Friday might have to be a snow leopard name. I will say for people who wanted option A, I did see a lot of those come before. I think there is a blog post about what that injury was, and I will post that below as well, so you can still get to hear that one as well. Or we'll just maybe highlight it next time at one of our next live chats, so tune in. Thank you so much, everybody. It's amazing to see kind of hellos from all over the world. It really is a global effort to protect these animals and work with communities. And so thank you for being here. Thank you to Örjan. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Goodbye.